Welcome to the Secure Connections podcast, brought to you by IOTSA, the Internet of Things Security Services Association. I'm Brian Sherman, Content Director for IOTSA and host for this discussion, and I'm pleased to welcome back one of our longtime contributors and friends of the IOTSA podcast, Zak Karsan, CEO of Vault America. In today's episode, we'll discuss an important and lucrative topic for MSPs, hybrid cloud data protection and disaster recovery. In these days, disaster recovery, I think, is one of the most important things, especially the business continuity side. So without any further ado, welcome back to the Secure Connections podcast, Zak.
Thank you very much, Brian. It's great to be here and great to see you.
Yeah, it's always that. Even though we're seeing each other virtually still, someday we'll get back to actually being able to hang out and have a beer at the bar, and I'm hoping that'll be sooner rather than later.
Hopefully sooner. We're getting there, right? Yeah. Hopefully not too many more months off. But I usually say, we'll be home soon, but we don't want to be home soon. We want to be away from home soon and back at the hotels and the bars and with the family, family on the road. So
yeah, I think, there's so many people that are like, oh, travel gets to be so rough now. And we were discussing this the other day about, people getting back on the road and that they think that's going to be very apprehensive of those that want to go stay. And I think when it's safe to go back out, these events are going to have more people than ever there because people want to get out, but also they want to learn. And you learn differently when you're live than you do virtual, although we love the podcast format as well. So I'm not underselling that.
Right. Agreed.
Great. So after 9 months, I think we're almost to 10 months now of physical isolation from our work friends that goes along with that. Those of us who used to travel regularly are getting a little bit stir crazy and can't wait to get back out. Of all the locations that you've traveled to for work over the years, what city are you missing the most you'd like to go back to?
There's so many good venues, so many good cities. Sometimes in some cities, we don't leave the city. We basically stay in the venue, don't even see the city, I should say.
Yeah.
So
I didn't say favorite. I did say favorite event.
Yeah. I think there's a lot, right? I would say I do like Orlando, not necessarily because of Disney World, but there's some pretty good venues out there. You get a little bit of the mix. I like to be able to relax and have the right spot to congregate with people we haven't seen for a long time. So Orlando's got they got the Waldorf out there. That's one of my favorite hotels. Little golf, good gym, and a good venue to kind of kick back in and catch up with old friends. Normally, I would say, and I'm not a big Las Vegas fan, especially for business venues, but that would be a natural, let's go and get out there and have a great time. But from a business venue standpoint, I got to be half there, so at least didn't come back together. But a lot of people are spread out in Vegas, so that's a little tougher.
Yeah, it's going to be a little tough. I saw actually a video of somebody driving down Las Vegas Strip yesterday, and it was it was a pretty lonely looking place. So they can't wait for us to get back either, I'm betting.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be there.
That's awesome. Hotel Coronado it would be my favorite place, I think, outside San Diego. But
okay. Nice.
Yeah, good. So who can go wrong with San Diego? I mean,
no, absolutely. No, San Diego's a beautiful place. Austin's also real nice. So I'd like to go back to Austin too.
Yeah. Well, and I know, since March, you've not just been sitting home, you've been pretty active in a lot of activities. And I hear you've gotten involved with a charity near and dear to your heart. So before we get into the security conversation, can you share some of the details about what you've been working on?
Sure. So many of you that know me know I had a tragedy in my life about last year. Around this time last year, my mom passed from what we call an orphan disease. It's called scleroderma, and orphan means that it doesn't receive federal funding for research to help hopefully find a cure, because less than 500,000 people have the disease. It affects men, women, and children. And so from then, after my mom passed, I ended up getting involved with the Scleroderma Foundation, now sit on the board of directors, and we're trying to raise money for research. And there are a lot of ways, obviously, charities do that, walks and things like that. But I'll just keep it short. But one way to do it is, and I got to give some kudos to Amazon. They have something, if you go to smile.amazon.com, you can basically just register for free, and it allows you to connect right to your regular account. It's the same shopping experience, but whatever you buy, Amazon donates 0.5% to the charity of your choice. So you might have your own charity that you want to donate to. Again, near dear to my heart is Scleroderma Foundation New England. So if there's any opportunity or I very much appreciate going there and selecting Scleroderma Foundation New England as your charity of choice to help raise money, awareness for patient education and research to hopefully cure this before I pass along to the next world. So spending a lot of time raising funds for Scleroderma research.
Sounds like a worthy cause. I'll make sure I take note of that too. I know there's going to be a few things I'll be ordering from Amazon. I'll try to keep it local, but that's a great cause. So.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, good luck in that endeavor, Zach. I know you'll do well, or they'll do well with you as an advocate too. So,
appreciate that.
Awesome. So we're in December right now, approaching the end of the year. Which I'm sure everybody will celebrate the end of at this point. So what are your 2020 projections for MSPs? What do you think IT service providers should be investing more of their time and money in moving forward?
I would say with everything going on, even before the pandemic, security, right? We just need better security. MSPs need to improve their stack. Us as vendors are helping to do that. A lot of new vendors are coming out. A lot of existing vendors are adding solutions to their portfolio. And it all comes down, in my mind, you look at the security stack and you have network security and data security. And those two things have kind of meshed together in a big way to secure organizations. So MSPs really need to, I think, improve on their stack, understand how to maybe better position it, bundle the right tools and products into that stack and bring it to market. I think MSPs are starting to do that, and we're excited working with our existing partners, new partners to help them do that. So they're going to be more effective as the months and days go by, so they can protect their customers and even themselves from what's always been out there, again, before the pandemic and even more because of the pandemic and the way the network is now laid out.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of discussion before the pandemic about, how to differentiate your MSP business. And man, I think we've seen this might have been the year of differentiation. If anything positive were to come out of what happened this year from a global perspective, I think it's the elevation of the MSP from that those with the cybersecurity expertise have done phenomenal. And that's not going to go away. That's going to continue from what I'm seeing.
Yeah. I think over the months, ransomware, and we hear it all the time. Yesterday, a partner called and their customer had just had a phishing attack. Somebody clicked on an email. Next thing you know, all right, they're exposed. So we have a lot of good training, and typically partners will, be able to point and click and user-friendly dashboards and be able to restore the customer. But for some reason, they wanted us to help them or just be available just in case, because it's a nervous situation for the customer, and that goes right back to the partner. So we were kind of on standby to help as we needed to. Thankfully, we didn't have to. They didn't lose any data. Nothing was corrupted. But they did need to call their banks and they put them on alert to make sure no funds are leaving those accounts. So
all of those other fun activities you have to do during a phishing attack is I think that would be the worst part than restoring the data, would be having to deal with the paperwork on the other side.
Exactly. Yeah. Insurance companies right now are not happy. I mean, obviously there's so many attacks. They're paying a lot of money out. So those premiums are going way up, but everybody needs to have cybersecurity insurance without a doubt. I mean, that's an important piece to protect the MSP and even to protect the end customer.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now, 2020, if it was anything, it's a differentiator, but it's also kind of the year of remote work. I think we've seen how everything's transpired over the last 9 months. It's hard to believe it's only been 9 months. Our industry really amped up the acronyms to go along with that too. I think we have WFH, work from home. We have work from anywhere. Distributed workforce. We got a lot of new terms. We always have great when it comes to that.
We do. We're good at this industry's great at acronyms. Gotta love it.
Acronyms and new names for everything. But basically, everybody went home to work in the simplicity. Yeah. It might be a permanent shift in the business philosophies and technological needs from what we're seeing. Originally everybody thought this is a temporary, but how have the ecosystem changes affected organizational data? This is your area of expertise. How is that shift? What's a long-term implication, and how do MSPs need to respond to this?
Yeah, so I think before you had an office and you had the network edge, you had the endpoints. Maybe you had people working from Starbucks and remotely and things like that occasionally, right? And obviously you need to secure those points of exposure and make sure you're connecting securely from those remote locations. But now with things really, the edge is now at the home, right? At the house, it's been extended out. And within or during these times, employees or employers have not given everybody their own computer, right? Things have happened so fast. That would be ideal, but you have employees basically using their own laptops and home computers. Maybe their kids are using those same computers. Who knows? So things really need to be protected. I think you look at it and you have, how are these folks operating? I mean, virtual, right? Everything is remote now. And so you have some companies that are roll out VPNs. Well, in my opinion, VPNs aren't really secure. Maybe it used to be, obviously it's a secure connection. But what happens if, an employee at home is connecting via VPN to the corporate site and somebody else is on that home computer? Well, that tunnel is open. Guess what? That bad actor is now accessing that data. So there has to be layers of protection. And so there are technologies and things that allow that to happen. Obviously, there are a lot of technologies out there. Some of the leading companies from a network security standpoint have, threat detection, remediation, response. I mean, there's some really good technologies out there to monitor and manage proactively, right? From a backup standpoint, disaster recovery standpoint, if you look at actually where that data resides, it is on those laptops. But at the same time, what a lot of MSPs have been, I think, busy doing is setting the customers up for remote access. So connectivity is one piece of it, but data access, right? Where does that? So people are virtualizing that information into the cloud, right? And syncing back. And so now, great, that's in the cloud. Some people might be saying, okay, and then they have little things where people are saving to Dropbox or saving to OneDrive, right, through 365. Well, that information is now in the cloud. So before, right, you have an office, we used to back up those desktops, those laptops, those servers, right? That still is true today. Now, is somebody going to back up their home computer, right, and want that information, right? No, so everything's virtualized and you still have that central location, but that might be in the cloud. So now how do you back up that information? Because you look at Microsoft 365, I don't want to pick on Microsoft too much, but you look at 365 and data's there. Well, guess what? You call Microsoft and they say, well, you should be backing that up. You pay us for a subscription, right? For email, for example. Before it was an Exchange server on site. Now you have 365. It's a hosted environment. It's still your production data. And I think you could pay Microsoft $50-$60. Again, I'm not selling that stuff, so I don't know, MSPs know better, but you can pay them maybe for a higher cost per license for a license for a user for 365, the subscription. But typically, SMBs aren't going to do that. They're gonna basically hopefully find a better solution, a lower cost solution. And so luckily, companies like Vault America, our competitors out there, we offer solutions like that because you need to back up that data that's in the cloud, right? And so now how do you do that? Well, you use solutions that can go and plug in and back up that information in OneDrive, as well as those emails, tasks, calendar, contacts, teams, all of that. But that data has to be secured. It has to be backed up. And there's a huge opportunity for MSPs to be able to add revenue, increase profit margin if they bundle that in. And so we're working with a lot of partners that have adopted solutions. Some aren't happy with the ones they have. They're saying, hey, what do you have? How does this work? How's the user interface? And so overall, they're getting it. And those are a lot of the great conversations that we're having with our partners to help them put that together and how to position it and bring it to market. And that's exciting for us because it directly impacts revenue, increases the MSP's value, takes care of their customer, and so forth.
This could get pretty complex if you think about, a typical business, if they had 100 employees, for example, right now you may have more than 100 devices collecting data because there may be people that have a work computer, they're doing stuff on their personal computer. All of this stuff is like multiple islands of information that could be out there. How do you go about, I guess, mapping that? Is it a challenge for companies to map out where all this information is to make sure they're capturing it all?
When they set up the foundation as far as having employees work remotely, right, that needs to be in the forefront. I mean, you have to be able to put that data where it belongs and make sure it's kept there, right? So if you're working and connecting, right, it should be, you still should be authenticating in, connecting securely to a server, right, in the cloud, or a target in the cloud where you're working from. So that, users should not be saving information, corporate data and information locally, right? They should be operating. So you're smiling because is that really happening, right? Yeah. And that's an issue, right? Is that training? Is that a rewrite of the employee manual? Again, things are happening so fast after these, these last many months. We can only do so much. So really, it's got to become policy. It's probably is policy, but it's best practices for the employer. And so you shouldn't have all these different pieces, mobile, whatever, phones and things, storing data locally on a personal level, right? That foundation has to be set up by the corporations when they're rolling out connectivity and remote access, which has already been done by these MSPs. It needs to be that one central point, right? And I think most MSPs have been able to set up their customers as such, right? Securely as possible, right? They're using the tools. I mean, our MSPs, I got to hand it to the entire industry. I mean, they really, they're doing a heck of a job. They stepped up. I mean, we're fortunate, and I say this over and over, to be in this industry, but these MSPs, unfortunately, we're not seeing them at events and hanging out and buying nice dinners and having a good time like we would like to. But I'll tell you, the MSPs, our partners, they are thriving. They have stepped up. They're helping the customers, the clients that they have, who are fortunate enough to still be operating, which majority are. But again, they're helping them with that connectivity, with those capabilities to be able to then go ahead and operate securely. And the MSPs have done that. And again, the vendors have the tools to be able to help them do that, the training, the positioning. It's fun for us, but they have really stepped up. And I think revenue as an MSP is their growth, I have a feeling, is just maybe better than, I'm going to say, maybe it ever has been, depending on the verticals that maybe some focus on. Sure. But they are busy, right? And they're saving their customers' business, literally, directly, because of what they know, what they're able to provide. So it's a silver lining, if there are any. This is one of them. But MSPs are doing really well, and they call me about data security all the time and say, how do I bring this to them? Network security folks, remote access, things like that. I mean, the first thing was, how do I operate? I'm at home. My whole company's at home. How do I do this? And we couldn't, as vendors, we couldn't even get them on the phone just to say hello and are you okay? Is your family okay? Right? Can I be of any help? Do you need anything? Because they were literally hooking up their customers. And it was a really nice thing to see. And now things obviously have calmed down because they have hooked their customers up and they can connect and keep operating. But again, there's a lot of benefit from a revenue standpoint for the MSP because they've been able to help in this time and benefit from it at the same time.
Now, Zach, I know those are great points. I think another area that you brought up was, electronic policies and things like that. That I think is an area of opportunity, but it's also an uncomfort zone for many MSPs, is how to find the right type of template to provide their clients. But they sent everybody home in many cases, and were not electronic policies in place of where to store data and things like that. Now, maybe a more important time than ever to get those things put in place for their clients, make sure that their employees, it's always the weakest link is the people and what they're doing on the other end. But putting some of those processes, not just in place, but in print, and putting some, I won't say enforcement behind it, but ensuring that every employee is following the dictates sent down by the company to make the MSP's job easier at that point. Mm-hmm. That's an area of the consulting side of the business that I think is a real opportunity for many MSPs in 2021, even though it's may not be recurring, but it's definitely something that's of value to them.
Yeah. On the kind of you're hinting at kind of the compliance piece.
Well, yeah, I think but it's even of making sure that they're not utilizing and storing data in little islands that the company's not aware of too. It can affect the compliance part, but yeah, I think the compliance is whether it's regulatory compliance or just compliance to make sure that you're not losing good company information or have legal liabilities from, having information stored in one place but not properly protected.
Yeah, I think there's different levels. I mean, you have to. There's a baseline, right? Data people have to be backing up that information wherever it resides. So there are tools and technologies to do that. I think some industries are more strict. They have more regulations and things like that. So for example, one of the solutions we provide is backup of 365 because, like I mentioned, you need to back that stuff up. Your emails, your task calendar, contacts, team, SharePoint, all of that needs to be protected so you can restore, ransomware. If it happens, you want to hit it before it happens, not pay the bad actor and get that information back. And then you layer on top of that compliance component. So for some folks in the financial industry, healthcare, whether they have to adhere to FINRA, SEC regulations and things like that, 178-3 and 4, mandates where they have to secure that data. So if something happens to a broker dealer, next thing regulatory comes down and says, where is that person's money you were investing or what have you, right? There's compliance requirements they have to adhere to. So what we're seeing a lot of now is MSPs looking at not just backup and recovery, but the ability to serve clients in certain verticals and increase revenue around that by offering not just a basic backup solution, even for Office 365 or 365, I should say, but to be able to provide a solution that actually provides audit capabilities, be able to certain permission levels, retain data, at certain levels, and again, archive, right? Not just backup, but archive information to meet compliance.
So you can tailor those specific solutions to meet the individual requirements of each industry that way, right? Is that what?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. There's an opportunity in the market too. A lot of MSPs say, and again, it's another industry that's thriving. Finance, the banks are still open, money's still changing hands. People are still investing, maybe investing more conservatively. Who knows? Markets are still blowing up like crazy. There's IPOs all over the place. Yeah, right. Hopefully they don't drop too much. But no, I think things are from that perspective, there are a lot of opportunities there around compliance. We can go much deeper, in another conversation, another time, but there is some good opportunities, and we're happy to be in a position as Vault America to provide solutions that allow the MSP to then, take advantage of those solutions, bring them to their customers, so they can adhere to, for example, regulatory compliance.
Sure. So Zach, we talked about the work from home situation, but many we're seeing a lot of hybrid workplace model expectations for the future. Whether what backup and business continuity challenges do stationary computers, networks, as well as a mix of mobile computing devices? What do those present for MSPs? Is this a bigger challenge of you're going to have a variety of siloed information as well as, many smaller islands of information out there? How do MSPs deal with all of that? Is it pretty easy to do these days?
I think you look at, in my mind, I think you look at kind of where is the operation taking place, right? Where the employees reside? Is it on site at the office? It's kind of the same, in a way. It shouldn't be that difficult, right? To me, it's not, because it's kind of like, okay, the employees were at the office, they have servers and desktops and laptops. Those need to be backed up, right? Now,
those devices, right?
Those devices. Now they're at home. They still have to get backed up. So everything kind of holds true. It's just maybe you need different solutions to do that, right? So you have the servers, desktop, laptop backups. You can point and click to be able to bring a folder back, bring a server back, and what have you, right? Folks at home, again, like I said, they should be connecting to not all these different silos, but still to those corporate servers, whether they're in the cloud and virtually, they still should be connecting to those, right, in the same way. So you have to back those up. It's not so much that data is siloed, or I guess it shouldn't be siloed. So companies should be able to have data in one area, right? And obviously, yeah, data, I don't know if it's siloed, but data is in different places because now you have cloud. And so data resides in the cloud, right? So data now, we focus on hybrid cloud, data protection and availability. So because data is like 365, it's in the cloud, but you still have stuff locally, right? I think as things move forward and we go back to some kind of normalcy, right? We're never going to be, I don't want to say never 100%, but for quite some time. And I think, again, that there's a way of life that has kind of been shown in such a way that, look, as people go back, well, maybe people won't need to go back 100%, right? There'll be a lot of people that will work hybrid, maybe quality of life, right? To be able to stay home with the kids some of the time, right? Or more time than they used to, right? I mean, because you can work remotely. These tools are there. So I think that, as long as those endpoints are secure and things are, you can access, you can secure, you can provide what you need to provide and connect to the data you need to connect to, they'll be able to, still connect, back up, protect, and recover, in the event of a disaster or if something were to happen.
Gotcha. So where does Vault America fit into that disaster recovery equation, Zak?
Yeah, so we have solutions that can back up, and restore your servers, your desktops, your laptops. So all that stuff that, on those machines, right? Those actual equipment, that hardware. But then in the cloud, we can also back up 365. We can back up G Suite, which I think they're changing into Google Workplace soon. That's where we fit. It's point and click recovery. Even if it's Dropbox, you can get that data back. If it's a situation where you need data back more quickly, okay, fine. We can overnight a drive to you. There are continuity solutions that competitive vendors or provide and or who are complementary that we work with, that our MSP partners also partner with, as well as ourselves. So ultimately, it's if you need backup, if you need recovery, we provide all of those solutions together under one stack. But we do focus on a non-appliance-based solutions. We don't want to deal with appliances and BDR devices and things like that, just the way we set up the company. But again, that's where we complement a lot of organizations that have that type of stuff. Right. And those are good. And it comes down to the customer, right? Customer might have a certain budget. They might not be able to afford a BDR solution, but they want to be able to fail over, right? And so again, you kind of have to figure out what's good for the customer, what's good for the budget, and then go from there. So I think MSPs that can put their stack together, which a lot have, we're a piece of that stack. They have what their customer needs, depending on what size customer, what budget the customer has, and they can meet their needs and make sure they're secure.
You think a lot of, especially maybe small business owners in particular, feel that if they've already got a cloud solution, that it's being backed up on that cloud solution? Is that a hard discussion point for MSPs to say, I know it's on the cloud, but you need to make sure you're backing it up in the cloud? Yeah, so
there's been a learning curve, right? As is with any new technology. MSPs initially, they assumed, I think, that Microsoft, as I even did, Microsoft's backing, hey, 365, it's good, they're backing it up.
You'd think so, yeah.
In the cloud, right? So But then you have, I was at an industry event, I think it was IT Nation last year, and an MSP came up and he said, hey, I just migrated my customer over. He's kind of frantic. He came over to the booth and he said, I migrated my customer over to 365, big law firm. Attorneys call me 2 weeks later, where the heck is my data? And he said, what do you mean? It's called Microsoft. Microsoft said, you weren't backing it up. And so, case in point, you need to back that stuff up, right?
Yeah, the assumptions sometimes are hard, become objections. And that's sometimes the simple thing is they don't back it up. They're giving you a platform to work with. You still need to make sure that you're doing due diligence on the backside and saving that data.
Yeah, it's production data, right? Any way you look at it. So, and our MSPs, they say, well, how do I tell my customer that, right? It's one thing for the MSP to understand because now they do. Now we all do. That has to be backed up, right? There's vendors that provide the solutions like us and others. But again, to your point, is how do you convince the customer, right? If the customer assumes that it is backed up. And so what we've done is we've put together a little piece that just literally T's and C's right out of Microsoft that says, literally don't come to us if you lose your data or if the data is lost or something happens, right? It's a production environment. So use a third party. We have no liability if something happens to your data, right, up in our cloud, because they don't provide that service. They provide the application. And ultimately it's an opportunity for MSPs to add revenue, to bundle it in the right way. But they just go in and say, look, Mr. Customer, this is exactly, what the T's and C's in Microsoft's 365 agreements, this is what it is. And once you see that, you kind of realize, okay, this is something that the customer needs. Now, how do you get to the customer? Because customers, nobody wants to pay more for anything, right? Even just basic backup. It's insurance. Somebody wants to buy more insurance. But so again, that's the tough job that any MSP has always had. But then you go into the next level, which is, okay, well, how do you make it painless or seamless or invisible, right? So you're protecting the customer, right? And that's all they need to know is you're protecting them. So maybe you bundle into that license, you increase the cost a little bit. And at least you can sleep at night. And that time when that customer calls you, you can help them restore that 365 information if that was the situation.
I always look at if people are actually responding and buying extended car warranties from all of those phone calls, then it should be much easier to be able to sell backup to businesses at this point.
You would think so, right?
You would think so. But
yeah, no, MSPs are doing a great job. I gotta say. I mean, even our phones are ringing pretty good. I think in this industry it's pretty tight, and we're one of the things is it's always great when an MSP refers another MSP, as you know, we've both been in the industry many years, so we know a lot of the MSPs out there and who they are and how they work, and when one calls you and kind of says, hey, we've heard great things, would like to kind of sign up and represent, become part of the family, Vault America family. It's just a nice thing. So we're happy to keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully we keep doing it better and better every year.
And hopefully, if this year really emphasizes the value of, I think, business information is increasing and accessibility to that information. So I would hope that helps MSPs in this, I won't say fight, but in this long-term planning process to make sure that they're getting the data underhand. But very good. Well, Zach, any final thoughts today before we sign off? It's been a great conversation with you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. No, I think again, if anyone's interested in taking a look at some of our solutions, if you haven't already, just go to vaultamerica.com. If you want to become a partner and register, just click the button there. Short and sweet. And we're also, again, during these pandemania times, we want to make sure everyone's protected. So we do have free 365 backup archiving licenses for anyone that wants them. Any MSP that wants them to make sure you guys are protected, and so you can kind of see what our solution is like and how it works. But even if you're not a partner of ours, but you want to make sure your 365 licenses, your 365 is protected, just give us a call. It's all about the relationship, and sure, would love to see if you're a good fit for the Vault America family and partnership. But again, it's a small industry and we're here to help. So anyway, we can do that. We want to be able to do that. So.
Fantastic. Well, a big thank you to today's special guest on Secure Connections podcast, Zak Karsan of Vault America. Be sure to stop back for more insightful channel cybersecurity discussions and check out all the MSP-focused resources at iotza.com, including the Solutions Marketplace. You will find Vault America listed there too, so you can get some extra information on them and on their programs too, and learn more about Zak. So have a safe and secure day, and thank you again for listening.